Have you ever lost something precious in a single moment of anger? Before we dive deep, pause right here. Hit subscribe, tap that like button, and drop a comment below sharing how anger has touched your life. Because this journey isn't just about learning. It's about transforming together. One heated word, one impulsive reaction, one uncontrolled outburst, and what took years to build can collapse in an instant. Anger is swift. It strikes like lightning. And when left unchecked, its damage can linger for a lifetime. Napoleon Hill taught us that every human being carries within them the seeds of both success and destruction. Those seeds are our thoughts, and whichever thoughts we water are the ones that grow. Anger is nothing more than a thought charged with destructive power. It burns, it consumes, and it blinds the mind to reason. And yet, the same energy that fuels anger, when mastered, can be redirected into power, determination, and achievement. The difference lies in one thing: control. To control your anger does not mean to bury it, to pretend it does not exist, or to deny that you feel it. Suppressed anger eventually finds its way to the surface, often in more destructive ways. To control your anger means to master it. It means to recognize its presence, to pause, and to channel its raw energy into a force that works for you rather than against you. Throughout history, men and women of great achievement were not those who never felt anger. They were those who learned to control it. Abraham Lincoln, often provoked, wrote letters in the heat of anger but never sent them. He understood that once words are released, they can never be recalled. Gandhi, though insulted and humiliated many times, turned his anger into a disciplined form of resistance that changed nations. Their greatness came not from the absence of emotion, but from the mastery of it. Ask yourself this: if anger has the power to destroy careers, relationships, and dreams, then what might be possible if that same energy were disciplined, focused, and directed toward your goals? The man who controls his anger controls his destiny. Anger is one of the most misunderstood forces in human nature. It is often seen as merely an emotion, a fleeting irritation, a sudden outburst, a storm that passes. But the truth is deeper. Anger is raw power, a concentrated burst of energy that can either destroy or transform, depending on who holds the reins. Like fire, anger can warm a home, cook food, and provide light, but left uncontrolled, it can burn everything to ashes. Napoleon Hill often reminded us that every emotion is energy, and every energy can be transmuted. Anger is no exception. It is not inherently evil, nor is it inherently good. It is simply force. What determines whether anger becomes a weapon of destruction or a tool of growth is the level of control we exercise over it. When a man loses his temper, he loses far more than peace of mind. He loses judgment. He loses opportunity. He loses respect. Decisions made in anger are almost always decisions that must be undone, and yet life seldom grants us the luxury of reversal. How many marriages have been broken because of words spoken in anger? How many promising careers have collapsed because of tempers flaring in the wrong moment? How many leaders have lost the loyalty of their people because they allowed wrath to replace wisdom? History offers countless warnings. The mighty Alexander the Great, though a brilliant conqueror, once killed his closest friend Clytus in a fit of rage. He later wept bitterly, realizing he had destroyed the one man who had saved his life in battle. His empire continued, but the guilt of that one uncontrolled moment haunted him until his death. This is a tragedy of unchecked anger. The damage remains long after the flame has burned out. But let us not forget, there is another side. The energy of anger, when directed, has lifted men and women out of mediocrity and into greatness. Many of the world's revolution, invention, and breakthroughs were born from a sense of righteous anger at injustice, poverty, or limitation. Anger, in its purest form, is a signal. It tells us something is wrong, something needs to change, something must not continue as it is. The wise do not let the fire burn wildly. They take that spark and forge it into determination. Napoleon Hill spoke often of self-mastery, and here lies the key. He who cannot control his anger cannot control his destiny. Anger unchecked makes you a slave to circumstance, tossed about by every offense, every insult, every obstacle. Anger mastered makes you a master builder, able to harness emotional power and convert it into constructive action. The first step to understanding anger is to respect its power. Just as you would not leave a live wire exposed or a loaded gun unattended, you must not allow anger to flow unchecked through your words and actions. Recognize it, pause, and remember, this is raw energy. Will I allow it to ruin me, or will I command it to serve me? In this awareness lies the seed of transformation. From this moment on, look at your anger not as an enemy, but as untamed power. It can destroy, but it can also create. The choice is always yours. Before we go deeper, let me pause here to remind you. If you believe mastering your emotions is the key to mastering your destiny, hit subscribe, tap like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because every time you share, you're not only helping yourself, you're inspiring someone else who may be fighting their own silent battle with anger. Now, let's confront a truth that Napoleon Hill made unmistakably clear. Anger is one of the greatest enemies of success. It is one of the 7 major negative emotions that sabotage achievement, alongside fear, jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, and superstition. Each of these, if allowed to dominate the mind, creates a mental environment where constructive thought cannot survive. And among them, anger is the most explosive. Why? Because anger blinds judgment. It rushes the mind into decisions without reason. It transforms small issues into mountains and trivial words into unforgivable insults. The man who cannot govern his temper invites ruin into his life. He may be brilliant, talented, and even hard-working, but if anger governs him, opportunity will flee from him. People may admire skill, but they will not trust instability. Consider the world of business. How many promising entrepreneurs have lost investors because they could not control their temper in a negotiation? How many employees, on the edge of promotion, have destroyed their chances because of a sharp tongue in a heated moment? Success requires trust, and anger is the fastest way to lose it. Napoleon Hill often said that success is built upon harmonious relationships. No man can achieve greatness alone. He must work with others, influence others, and inspire others. Anger destroys harmony. It plants seeds of resentment, distrust, and hostility. A single angry outburst can undo months, even years, of relationship building. History provides both warnings and lessons. Abraham Lincoln was famous for his patience under pressure. When insulted, he did not lash out. He waited, he reflected, and often responded with humor or silence. This calmness did not make him weak. It made him powerful. It gave him the ability to hold together a divided nation at a time when anger threatened to rip it apart. Compare this with leaders whose tempers led to wars, betrayals, and collapsed empires. The lesson is clear. Anger and leadership do not mix. The same truth applies to personal life. A marriage cannot thrive when anger dominates conversations. Children cannot flourish under constant explosions of temper. Friendships cannot endure when one person is always quick to wrath. Success in life is not only measured by wealth or titles, but by the quality of one's relationships. Anger, unchecked, is the silent thief of joy. And there's a deeper law at work, the law of attraction. Like attracts like, if your mind radiates anger, you attract circumstances, people, and experiences that fuel that anger. The universe cannot bring peace to a mind that projects rage. But when you discipline yourself to remain calm under provocation, you not only preserve relationships, you attract opportunities, allies, and circumstances aligned with peace and progress. Napoleon Hill warned us that the man who allows anger to control him becomes a puppet of external forces. The insult of a stranger, the mistake of an employee, the traffic on the road, all these trivial things gain power over him. But the man who controls himself is free. He does not hand over the keys of his destiny to every inconvenience. He remains focused on his definite purpose, refusing to let temporary irritation rob him of permanent success. So I ask you this, what opportunities have you lost because of anger? What doors have closed because of a moment you could not control? Reflect on it, not with regret, but with determination. For the past cannot be changed, but the future is still in your hands. And if you commit today to conquer anger, you commit to clearing one of the greatest obstacles between you and lasting success. Pause for a moment. If you believe in becoming the master of your own destiny, not a prisoner of anger, then hit subscribe, press like, and share your journey in the comments. Every story of growth, every testimony of victory over temper becomes fuel for someone else's breakthrough. Now, let us face a truth that Napoleon Hill repeated over and over. No man can lead others until he first masters himself. Self-mastery is a cornerstone of greatness, and at the heart of self-mastery lies control over one's emotions. Anger is the greatest test of this control. Why? Because anger is immediate. It doesn't wait for permission. It erupts. It pushes itself into your thoughts, your words, and your actions before logic can catch up. To master anger, therefore, is a practice deliberate awareness. It is to train the mind to pause before it reacts, to think before it speaks, and to direct energy before it escapes in destruction. Hill often taught about definiteness of purpose. He said that people become angry most often when their purpose is unclear or when their direction is threatened. The man with no clear purpose is like a ship tossed by the waves. Every insult, every delay, every obstacle stirs frustration. But the man who knows where he is going does not waste his energy on petty irritations. He stays focused because he understands that anger is a diversion from destiny. One of the most practical tools for self-mastery is the power of the pause. Before you respond in anger, count to 10. It sounds simple, almost childish, but in those 10 seconds lies your freedom. In those 10 seconds, the fire loses heat and reason gains strength. Great leaders have survived moments of provocation, not because they never felt anger, but because they delayed reaction long enough for wisdom to take control. Another method is autosuggestion. Just as Napoleon Hill taught us to plant positive affirmations into the subconscious mind, so too can we reprogram our responses to anger. Instead of saying, "I can't help my temper," begin saying, "I am the master of my emotions. I choose calmness. I choose control." Repetition of this idea conditions the mind until, in the heat of provocation, the subconscious supplies calmness instead of rage. Journaling is also a powerful weapon against anger. Write down the triggers that ignite your temper. Patterns will emerge. Perhaps it is disrespect. Perhaps it is delay. Perhaps it is criticism. By identifying the patterns, you remove the mystery of anger and replace it with awareness. Awareness is the first step to mastery. For what you can see, you can control. What you ignore controls you. Physical control aids emotional control. Tension in the body feeds tension in the mind. Deep breathing in moments of provocation calms the nervous system and restores clarity. Exercise, too, channels energy that might otherwise fuel outbursts. A body disciplined is a mind more prepared for discipline. But above all, self-mastery requires discipline of thought. Anger often arises not from reality, but from interpretation. You do not grow angry because someone cut you off in traffic. You grow angry because you interpret it as disrespect. You do not grow angry because someone disagreed with you. You grow angry because you interpret as an attack. Change the interpretation, and you change the emotional reaction. This is the true battlefield of self-mastery. The mind. Napoleon Hill called self-discipline the bridge between thought and accomplishment. Without it, anger builds walls instead of bridges. With it, anger becomes energy that drives determination, persistence, and creativity. So let me ask you, are you the master of your temper or its servant? Every time you choose control over chaos, you build the muscles of self-mastery. Every time you pause instead of react, you gain ground in the battle for your destiny. This is not a fight you win in one day, but with every small victory, you move closer to the ultimate triumph, dominion over yourself. If you're finding value in this journey of mastering anger, pause for a moment, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and drop a comment about how you've turned anger into fuel or how you want to, because someone, somewhere, is waiting to learn from your transformation. Now let's get to the heart of mastery. Not merely controlling anger, but transforming it into something greater. Napoleon Hill taught us about transmutation, the conversion of raw emotional energy into constructive power. He often used the example of sexual energy, showing how it could be redirected into creativity, persistence, and genius. The same principle applies to anger. Anger is raw fire. If left untamed, it burns and destroys. But if harnessed, it becomes fuel for achievement. Think of anger as electricity. In its wild form, it can shock, burn, even kill. But when directed through wires, it lights cities, powers machines, and makes civilization possible. Anger, too, must be wired into purpose if it is to serve you instead of destroy you. How do we do this? The first step is reframing anger as signal, not sentence. When anger arises, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Perhaps it signals injustice. Perhaps it signals unmet expectations. Perhaps it signals wasted potential. The lesson here is not to lash out, but to identify the deeper message. Once identified, that message becomes motivation. For example, an employee who feels anger at being overlooked for promotion can use that emotion not to insult the boss, but to sharpen skills, build influence, and outgrow the limitations placed upon him. The student who feels anger at failing an exam can use it not to curse the system, but to study harder, seek help, and prove mastery. The entrepreneur who feels anger at rejection can use it not to attack critics, but to refine the product and return stronger. In each case, anger becomes energy for advancement. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Every adversity carries with the seed of an equal or greater benefit." Anger is often the first reaction to adversity. If you master the reaction, you gain access to the benefit. Consider some of history's great transformations. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. He had every reason to be consumed with anger. And yet, when he emerged, he had transmuted that anger into forgiveness, discipline, and a vision for reconciliation. His anger at injustice became motivation to build a nation. Without that transmutation, South Africa may have drowned in endless cycles of revenge. Even in the world of invention, anger has played its role. Many innovators were driven not merely by curiosity, but by frustration, anger at limits, anger at inefficiency, anger at failure. Thomas Edison, after 1,000 failed attempts at creating the light bulb, could have let anger defeat him. Instead, he transmuted it into persistence. What would have been rage became resolve. The practical question is this: how do you channel anger into motivation? 1. Redirect energy into physical action. When anger boils, do not explode in destruction. Move your body. Exercise, run, lift, train. This channels the energy out of chaos and into strength. 2. Channel energy into creativity. Write, paint, build, compose. Anger is intensity, and intensity fuels art. Many of the world's greatest works were born out of inner conflict transformed into expression. 3. Focus anger into determination. Instead of saying, "I'm so angry they doubted me," say, "I will prove them wrong." The fire of anger becomes the engine of persistence. 4. Turn anger into service. Instead of hating injustice, fight it by serving others. Many social movements were born from righteous anger that became structured, disciplined action. Visualization is another powerful tool. When you feel anger rise, imagine it as raw fire in your hands. Picture yourself molding it, shaping it, forging it into a soar of purpose. See yourself not consumed by the flame, but holding it, using it to cut through obstacles. The mind responds to imagery, and when you see anger as power to be shaped, your subconscious begins to act accordingly. Here lies a secret Hill would emphasize. The man who learns to transmute anger becomes unstoppable. Why? Because he gains access to relentless energy without the self-destruction. Others burn out in rage. He burns forward in progress. Others lose control. He gains momentum. Others waste time in quarrels. He invests energy in conquest. So I ask you, what would happen if you took every ounce of anger you've ever felt and redirected it toward your goals? What if every insult, every rejection, every injustice became not a wound, but a workout? What heights could you climb if every spark of rage became fire for persistence? This is not theory. It is practice. Begin today. The next time anger rises, stop and ask, how can I use this energy for growth? Then act, redirect, build. That moment, repeated over and over, transforms not only your anger, it transforms your destiny. Before we step in, let me remind you, If you believe that true strength lies in emotional control, not emotional chaos, then hit subscribe, press like, and drop a comment below. Share how you practice patience or turn anger into peace. You never know whose life your story might change today. Now let's go deeper. Napoleon Hill taught that no man succeeds alone. Every great achievement is a product of cooperation, relationships, and what he called a mastermind principle, the alliance of minds working together in harmony toward a definite purpose. But here's the truth. Anger is the enemy of harmony. It destroys trust, poisons communication, and fractures relationships. If you want to rise to greatness, you must not only conquer your own temper, but also cultivate emotional intelligence, the ability to understand, manage, and influence emotions both in yourself and in others. So what exactly is emotional intelligence? It is awareness, knowing when anger is rising. It is control, pausing before reaction. It is empathy, sensing how others feel and responding with wisdom. And it is influence, the ability to turn heated moments into opportunities for deeper connection. Without emotional intelligence, anger becomes a wrecking ball, smashing opportunities. With it, anger becomes a signal that guides you toward better choices. He'll emphasize that success requires positive mental attitude. Emotional intelligence is a practical expression of this truth. A man with high IQ but low emotional intelligence may rise fast but fall faster, for people will not follow a leader who cannot control his temper. In contrast, a man with average talent but calmness of spirit, patience in conflict, and empathy in leadership often outpaces the brilliant but volatile competitor. Think of a business negotiation. Two men are seated at the table. One is provoked, loses patience, and raises his voice. The other remains calm, listens attentively, and speaks with measured words. Who will win the deal? The answer is obvious. The calm man commands respect. The angry man loses credibility. The same is true at home. A parent who explodes in rage creates fear, not respect. A spouse who lashes out creates distance, not intimacy. A friend who cannot manage anger becomes unreliable. Success in relationships requires harmony, and harmony requires emotional intelligence. Now, how do you build it? 1. Practice active listening. When provoked, listen instead of reacting. Sometimes anger rises because we misinterpret. Listening dissolves misunderstandings before they ignite. 2. Delay your response. Give yourself time before speaking. In delay, wisdom speaks louder than emotion. 3. Cultivate empathy. Ask, what pain or fear drives this person's words? Often, seeing the human beneath the hostility, dissolve your anger. 4. Forgive quickly. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is emotional freedom. Holding grudges keeps anger alive. Forgiveness releases it. 5. Guard your environment. Negative people breed negative emotions. Choose companions who value peace, growth, and harmony. Napoleon Hill's mastermind principle reminds us, anger doesn't just harm you, it harms everyone connected to you. An angry outburst in a team weakens unity. A hostile spirit at work reduces productivity. But a calm, emotionally intelligent presence strengthens bonds, builds trust, and attracts allies. Let's take a lesson from leaders like Nelson Mandela or Martin Luther King Jr. They live in times when anger would have been justified at every turn. Yet, their ability to respond with calm vision and disciplined speech inspired millions. They did not suppress anger. They transcended it. They turned it into emotional leadership, harmonizing diverse groups under one shared purpose. So here's the question. What kind of energy do you bring into the room? Do you stir harmony or do you stir hostility? Do people leave your presence calmer and stronger or shaken and drained? The emotionally intelligent man is a magnet for opportunity because people trust him. They know he will not explode, betray, or destroy what they are building together. Hill was right. Success is impossible without harmony, and harmony is impossible without mastering anger through emotional intelligence. Build this quality in yourself, and you will not only avoid the destruction of anger, but you will also create the conditions for lasting greatness. Before we begin, pause for just a moment. If you are ready to build daily habits that strengthen self-control and elevate your life, hit subscribe, press like, and leave a comment sharing which habit you'll commit to today. Because change doesn't happen in theory. It happens in practice, day by day. Napoleon Hill often taught that habit is the invisible architect of destiny. What you do repeatedly, you become. If you repeat negative habits, you reinforce weakness. If you repeat positive habits, you build strength. The same is true for anger. You cannot hope to master it through one moment of willpower. You must cultivate daily disciplines that condition your mind and body to remain calm under pressure. So, what are the habits that conquer anger? 1. Begin the day in silence. Hill believed in the power of prayer, meditation, and reflection. When you start your morning in silence, you align your spirit before the storms of the day arrive. 10 minutes of deep breathing, affirmations, or quiet gratitude sets the tone. A calm morning breeds a calm mind. 2. Strengthen the body. Anger often finds fuel in physical exhaustion. Poor diet, lack of sleep, and neglected health leave the nervous system fragile. But a strong body supports a strong mind. Daily exercise, even a walk, dissipates stress and burns off the energy that might otherwise explode in temper. Nutrition, too, matters. Reduce stimulants like excessive caffeine that can spike irritability. 3. Practice gratitude. It is nearly impossible to remain angry while counting your blessings. Gratitude shifts focus from what went wrong to what is still right. Each evening, write down 3 things you're grateful for. This habit rewires the brain toward appreciation, making anger less likely to dominate. 4. Journal your triggers. Keep a daily log of moments when you felt irritation or frustration. Over time, patterns will appear. You may notice certain environments, people, or situations ignite your temper. Awareness turns ambush into preparation. When you know your triggers, you can plan your responses. 5. Use autosuggestion. Napoleon Hill's law of autosuggestion is powerful here. Repeat daily affirmations. I am calm under pressure. I master my emotions. I choose patience. I turn energy into purpose. Over time, the subconscious accepts these commands, and they become automatic responses in moments of provocation. 6. Schedule intentional pauses. Throughout the day, insert moments of stillness. Pause at lunch. Pause before entering a meeting. Pause before responding to a challenging message. These micro moments of calm keep anger from ever building to dangerous levels. 7. Build the habit of forgiveness. Carry no anger into tomorrow. At the end of each day, release the grudges, the slights, the offenses. Say to yourself, I will not allow yesterday's anger to poison tomorrow's opportunity. This daily cleansing frees the mind and strengthens your character. Napoleon Hill spoke of the law of cosmic habit force, the principle that repeated thoughts and actions become automatic, shaping your destiny. Just as brushing your teeth requires no thought after years of practice, so too can patience and calmness become reflexes if you train them daily. Ask yourself, are your daily habits feeding anger or feeding peace? Do you wake up rushing, irritated, unprepared? Or do you wake up grounded, calm, and focused? Do you spend the day feeding on negativity, gossip, and frustration? Or do you cultivate environments of growth, gratitude, and clarity? Your habits determine the answer. The truth is this: anger is not conquered in grand gestures, but in small, daily victories. Each time you breathe instead of lash out, journal instead of explode, forgive instead of retaliate, you win. And every small win builds into permanent mastery. So begin today. Choose one habit. Commit to it. And repeat, for it is in the repetition that transformation occurs. Before we begin, pause for a moment. If you believe that spiritual strength is just as important as mental discipline, then hit subscribe, press like, and leave a comment below sharing how faith or higher purpose has helped you overcome anger. Your words may be the encouragement someone else desperately needs. Napoleon Hill often reminded his readers that man is not only a physical and mental being, but also a spiritual one. True success, he taught, is impossible without recognizing connection to something greater than ourselves, what he called infinite intelligence. And here lies a powerful truth. Anger disconnects us from this higher source, while calmness keeps the channel open. Think about it. When you are consumed with rage, your mind narrows, your vision clouds, and your intuition is blocked. In those moments, you cannot hear the whispers of guidance. You cannot sense the right path. You cannot access wisdom beyond logic. Anger drowns out the voice of infinite intelligence. But when the spirit is calm, the channel clears and inspiration flows. This is why many spiritual traditions speak of anger as a barrier to growth. In Christianity, wrath is listed among the deadly sins because it destroys both the soul and the community. In Buddhism, anger is seen as one of the poisons that clouds enlightenment. Across cultures, the lesson is the same. The man who is ruled by anger is separated from his higher self. But there is hope. Just as anger separates, forgiveness reunites. Forgiveness is not merely a moral act. It is a spiritual discipline that restores harmony between you and infinite intelligence. When you release anger, you release the heavy chains that keep you bound to the past. You open yourself to peace, clarity, and divine guidance. Hill often described the power of faith. Not just religious faith, but the unshakable belief in a higher order that responds to your thoughts and intentions. Faith is impossible in a mind dominated by anger, but in a mind filled with calm determination, faith becomes a living force. It gives courage, direction, and strength. If you want to control anger on a spiritual level, make practices of prayer, meditation, and reflection part of your daily life. These practices quiet the storm, restore perspective, and remind you of the greater purpose that transcends temporary frustrations. The man who sees his life as part of a divine plan cannot be easily provoked by petty offenses. He knows his mission is larger than his irritation. Ask yourself, when anger rises, do you close the channel to infinite intelligence, or do you open it through faith and forgiveness? Do you let wrath consume your spirit, or do you let peace guide your path? Remember this. The strongest man is not the one who conquers others in anger, but the one who conquers himself through calmness of spirit. In self-mastery, he aligns with infinite intelligence, and in that alignment, he becomes unstoppable. Pause with me one last time. If you've gained value from this journey on mastering anger, hit subscribe, press like, and leave a comment sharing your biggest takeaway. Because success is not built alone. It grows through shared wisdom and mutual encouragement. Now let us conclude. We began by asking, have you ever lost everything in a single moment of anger? We have seen together how anger, left unchecked, is one of the greatest destroyers of relationships, opportunities, and dreams. It blinds judgment, poisons harmony, and severs a connection between man and infinite intelligence. And yet, we have also seen how the same force, when mastered, can become fuel. Fuel for persistence, for creativity, for leadership, for greatness. Napoleon Hill reminded us that self-mastery is the foundation of all success. To master anger is to prove dominion over self. Each pause before speaking, each breath before reacting, each act of forgiveness over retaliation. These are victories greater than any conquest of land, wealth, or power. Anger will always come knocking, but you are not obligated to open the door. You have the power to pause, to reflect, and to redirect. In doing so, you transform anger from your enemy into your servant. Remember this. He who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers a city. Your true power lies not in overpowering others, but in ruling your own spirit. So here's my challenge. Starting today, choose calmness over chaos, purpose over provocation, forgiveness over fury. Control your anger, and you control your destiny. Backhand index pointing right, don't forget. Hit subscribe, tap that like button, and comment where you're watching from. Because this community is about growth, mastery, and transformation, and you belong here. Your future is waiting. Don't let anger steal it.